The newest survey on the availability of free seats for frequent flyers is out. There are obviously more airliners involved here, but we focused on airlines with local interest. Southwest, #1 for the third year in a row. If you've got the points, they've got the seats every time. American Airlines is toward the bottom. When Advantage members want to fly free, it only happens about half the time. And at the very bottom, American's new partner and bosses, U.S. Airways. Preferred flyers can find a free flight only about a third of the time that they look. Mark Drush is an airline industry expert, former CEO, and he knows, he told me this is in your sweet spot. You know, frequent flyers, you know, keeping customers happy. All right, it looks like tough times ahead for American frequent flyers, possibly. Let's talk about the leader first, Southwest Airlines. Why are they able to do what they're able to do?
Well, there are a couple of reasons, and they really are based on the type of airline Southwest operates. They operate a high-frequency airline, so their density of routes is greater. Therefore, there's a better chance that you'll find an open seat between Dallas and Houston because they're operating 25 flights a day, as opposed to somebody who's only operating 3 or 4 flights a day in the market. That's the first. The second is they have a revenue management system that's not quite as advanced as American or U.S. Airways or Delta, meaning that their system is not as accurate at predicting demand far out. So that means what they do, Southwest, to be customer friendly, is they err in favor of the consumer, meaning we don't think we'll have as much demand as maybe other models would show if they had those models.
And so they give a frequent flyer seat.
They make those seats available. Yes.
All right, let me read you some. IdeaWorks did this survey for the 5th year in a row. Their president, a guy named Jay Sorensen, says U.S. Airways is always at the bottom because they show, quote, a management philosophy towards stinginess on frequent flyer awards. Now, he's talking about the new American management team. That's the new reality for American frequent flyers, you think?
Let's really parse out what he said. U.S. Airways is operating and was operating an airline to make money, which is unusual in the airline industry because airlines normally don't make money until recently. So they were doing what they could do to maximize their profitability. But
instead of giving a frequent flyer seat,
they were selling them.
They'd sell it for cheap, but
they'd
they wanted the money.
Exactly, they wanted the money. Now, there are a couple of other things, though, to think about. U.S. Airways had a much different route structure than American. They had less density of business routes, meaning that they sold more leisure travel, which is further out booking, which means they paid less, which also meant that they could give away less of those seats because they weren't making as much money on them. You now morph into American, where they own a very rich business market like Dallas, like Miami, like Chicago. So their view of how they're going to handle seats is going to have to change some.
Yeah, but what you're telling me is that all these executives who made U.S. Airways the acquiring airline.
Absolutely.
Not the bankrupt airline. They're the management team of the acquiring airline. They're going to say, hey, okay, let's do it like American was doing it. No, that's the way to do it.
No, that's not what they're going to say. What they're going to do now is use the American Airlines revenue management systems, which allow them to better determine how many seats will be available in the future and therefore make more available. Plus, they will have more of the business markets, so they won't be so dependent on booking as many seats and having as high a load factor. I think you will see changes. Don't get me wrong.
Let me tell you, get quickly on this and we'll move on. Crystal ball it. Is Americans 55% going to go down more toward 35, or is 35 going to be?
35 is going to go up.
Yeah.
The 55 might come down some.
If you used to be being an Advantage Award member, it's going to get worse. All right. So let's talk about what's going on at Love Field. I mean, I was writing on something today, and I feel like, you know, Delta wants the gates. Virgin seems in a position to get them based on Department of Justice, but Southwest is like the guy who has a buddy on the inside. I know a guy who knows a guy, and I think I get those gates. Yeah. I mean, that's a little bit. They have a long relationship with the city. City hasn't made a decision. City manager was supposed to do it today.
Yeah.
Nothing. What's going to happen? What's going on?
Well, if I were to guess what's going on right now, it's really a debate internally whether or not you give the local hometown carrier those gates, which clearly is not only contrary to what the federal government wants, who ultimately has authority here, but secondly, you're really handing over to Southwest Airlines a practical monopoly in Love Field. The
16 gates already, 2 more would be.
You go from 80 to 90% of the gates. That's unheard of in a major hub. So I understand they want to support their local airline. Don't get me wrong, I get it. But it's not the right thing to do for the consumer. It's not the right thing to do in terms of the law. The federal government has the authority here.
So you think they're going to Virgin? Is that what's going to end up?
Let me put it this way. Ultimately, they'll go to Virgin. We live in Texas. What we love about Texas, we're independent. I understand.
Could be a fight, could be a legal fight.
They want to fight, but I would put money, it goes to Virgin ultimately.
Okay, Mark Drush, thanks. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.